Hello, hello, hello. This is Still Moving About yet again after a hiatus, by the way, just because it's been a tough few weeks at least. And I'm here today with Ali Hassan. He's an old friend of mine. Let me just bring him into the spotlight just so we know what's happening. But first, let me just check the light. Yeah, we're live. We're good. Okay, so here is Ali Hassan,
Hey,
people. Ali Hassan
hey, hi
from
guys.
the Pakistan. That's where I am from, and so is he. So I was going to introduce you, but I was just going to be like, it's better that you're here for the introduction. If I make any mistake, you can say something.
Thanks.
So basically, Ali Hassan and I have a long, long, long history of being friends back in the homeland, and I moved to Thailand. He's still there, but he's killing it in Pakistan with his wonderful voice, his really strong vocals. He was the voice coach for me for a while as well. Clearly, I have stopped taking those lessons seriously anymore. Sorry, Ali, I can't do anything about it. So, you want to say hi to the people, the maybe the one person watching?
Hello, hello, people of the world. Hello, people of Thailand. Hello, people of YouTube.
Cool. Thank you. So, Ali, I mean, I have been watching you over the years, and you have grown from a person who used to just sing in his own room to somebody who's been singing in studios now. That's really impressive to me as a person, and I'm pretty sure for a lot of people. But you and I we met, I think, like way back. But I think there was also the what was it, Keynote, the cafe.
Keynote
Uh,
Cafe, yeah,
Keynote,
in
yeah. So
Zamzam.
so that's where I remember we did this really fun exercise with vocal cords and everything, sare gama. At least once or twice when we had the whole cafe to ourselves. For some odd reason, they gave us their keys and trusted us with that crap. So like what's your journey been since then? I moved 5 years ago, but we have been in touch, not as much as we would like to, I guess. But you want to talk to us about some of your journey?
Yeah, yeah, sure. And I think, like, honestly, they gave us the keys because we were nicer people back then. I think we were younger, full of optimism, more naive about
That
the
is
world.
true, I guess.
Um,
Yeah.
no, like, I mean, all cynicism aside, I think it's been just one of those things. When people generally talk about the arts, they talk about uh, what I find troublesome and problematic is that people expect a certain amount of acceptance just to come from being an artist or doing something that's off the beaten track. There's a reason why it's called the off the beaten track, right?
Hmm.
There's a reason
Yeah.
why it's considered like an alternative career, at least in this country, because I think for me the biggest part of becoming an artist, quote unquote, and
Yeah.
transitioning from that space 5 years ago when I was just singing and just dreaming about, okay, what can I do with modern Urdu poetry? How can I fuse it with Western jazz and progressive elements and present that? From
Yeah.
there till now, I think the biggest thing has been becoming more honest with myself. And part of the honesty has been to acknowledge that the world doesn't owe you an a de facto acceptance of your dreams. Like it's something that you work towards.
Yeah.
People oppose you, and certainly I've had my fair share of opposition. I've had opposition from family, I've had opposition in the workplace, I've had opposition of all kinds, social censure. you know my
Yeah.
girlfriend, for example, being afraid to introduce me to her parents because I'm a musician, or want to become a musician, things like
Hmm.
that. I've had my fair share of that, but I think it's also been part of the honesty has been me realizing that you have to prove to the world that your convictions have courage in them. Your convictions are not just empty daydreaming, right? So every
Agreed.
challenge
Yeah.
that has come my way has sort of been like a source of inspiration for me to just prove to others, and also more importantly prove to myself that this is
Hmm.
exactly what I want to do. This is exactly where I want to be in life.
Yeah.
So I owe a lot of my ascendance, and I owe a lot of my journey towards this small startup that came out of Pakistan. It was called Jambro.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they were a Tinder for musicians. They made an app where you could tell people which city you're in, what instruments you play. You could upload like a little small video of you playing, and then
Yeah.
you could use that app to then get together with other musicians and then like jam and or maybe like organize live concerts and things like that. So I really I was when you met me, I had recently returned from the US. In the
Mm-hmm.
US, I got a chance to study jazz and gospel
Yeah.
and a little bit of opera and Western
Yeah.
music. So when I came back to Karachi, the culture of open mic nights was just hitting the city,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I
This is
just
what
started like
year?
doing these.
Just to clarify, put
This
things in
is
perspective.
2013, 2012,
Okay.
2013.
All right.
And so yeah, so I jumped on that bandwagon, and then I just started doing open mics. Then when Jambro happened,
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the early adopters of the app and one of the earliest people to benefit from it. So
Yeah.
I got a chance to jam with industry professionals, and then Jambro started organizing concerts, and I would go to almost every one of them, and I would just like sing my heart out and just meet a lot of people. And I think eventually that gave me courage, and it also got me noticed. So it gave me courage enough to actually seriously uh, succeed, in the sense
Yeah.
of in very seriously sit down and just like figure out, do a SWOT analysis, like figure out where my weaknesses were, find
Mm-hmm.
like a way to convert that into opportunities, find a way
Yeah.
to fill the gaps in my knowledge. So I read up on production and music theory and things like that. And most
Yeah.
importantly, I started studying the classical music of Pakistan and self-taught as much as possible. Taking tips from great masters of the art form wherever I could, and and I'm very very grateful to a lot of very experienced people who
Mm-hmm.
saw that even though I might not have had the skill set,
Yeah.
but I had the determination to get it and the drive and the passion. And
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
have received so much guidance from like people in the industry, people who really ought not to have be talking to me even. Like I mean, I made friends with people who have been regular performers in Coke Studio or at Nescafe Basement.
Yeah.
Uh, and like like I was just a nobody, but people, I guess there was something in me that people saw, and that they wanted to support, they wanted to get behind. So I just started doing that. I was also an educator. I had been teaching full time for the last 5 years or
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
until I had saved
I.
up.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Continue.
No, I just wanted to say that I just saved up a lot of money uh, to be able to just take a few months off from having a job, so I could get a band together, get an album down.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been like a very sort of my holistic perspective on my journey so far.
Yeah, I mean, that's I'm glad that you mentioned Jambro because I was thinking about the more recent stuff. But with Jambro, it's basically like you said, Tinder for musicians. I'm guessing you got more
Yeah.
lucky on Jambro than than the actual
More people
Tinder.
swipe,
Swipe
more
right for
people
you.
swipe right for me. Yeah.
And like I know like a lot of people have been there for you over time, and there have been people who have told you what mistakes you're making, what you're doing well, and I'm really glad that you actually made it a point to move forward, to progress, basically,
Yeah.
instead of like just holding on to these things, because normally a lot of us, we're like always taken aback by criticism, and we just like
Yeah.
dive into that in our head, and we just don't know how to get out of it. So that's actually a pretty good um, success story to some extent, I guess. I mean, how have you I want to talk about your education background, like your educator background, but then first I would like to talk about the actual music projects. The most recent one I saw, it was an ad um, in which you, Sohaib, and this third person, I don't know that name right now. You guys are basically offering online classes, online lessons, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so how does that help? How does your educator background help in that? Because of the current situation, like I work over here, and there are several schools that I know of which have been doing online teaching. or literally even math, science, English, everything, right? So
Yeah,
how's
yeah,
the current situation either helped you or motivated you to actually do something online like everybody else uh,
yeah. I
successfully?
think I think what it really was just like a response to the environment, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think even before the whole COVID business happened, I I used to get a lot of queries because Pakistan, you know that the music industry is very small, so you
Mm-hmm.
always need to find supplemental ways of earning. And
Yeah.
when I hit 30, I had made a decision to myself that I want to have the largest chunk of that money come from
Yeah.
music, right? Through music teaching, through like whatever music related activities,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
wanted to move out of that hobbyist phase and into the professional world
Yeah. Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
Um, so I had a lot of queries coming in before COVID, and the biggest complaint that all of those queries used to have was always, "K, you live far away, you live at the other end of the city, and Karachi is a huge city, so it's
Yeah.
not just that, if like I had students coming in who lived 2.5 hours away, and 2.5 hours away was still Karachi, right?
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
So
It's pretty massive.
so I guess the opportunity was always there. It's just that it took COVID for me, like a lot of us, to learn a very few important lessons. And online, I think, has been a boon and a blessing for all of us, because now I can connect with people from all over the country, whoever wants to learn
Yeah.
the kind of music that I am doing and the kind of music that I'm teaching. Because
Yeah.
I don't do purely Western or purely Pakistani music. I do a
Yeah.
fusion, a variety of it.
Mm-hmm.
I have certain aspects of my singing are very Western, and certain aspects of my production and theory are very Eastern. So I
Yeah.
try to find some kind of middle ground over there.
Okay.
And there are three of us. There's myself. I'm teaching music composition and vocals,
Yeah.
and I have my friend Sohaib Ali Khan, who you know as well, who's a fantastic
Yeah.
pianist who's
Yeah.
doing piano
Amazing.
lessons. And we have a third person, Ahat Hussain, who is also the guitarist in my band. He's on his second guitar in Am Tatil, which is my band,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he's doing guitar classes. So
Okay.
essentially, yeah. So that's basically been the case, and I guess COVID. I don't think if it helped me, because I don't like to think of myself as profiteering from a pandemic. I just
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, even if in some sense I am, I don't want to have that kind of self-image of myself. But what I do think is that um, the arts has proven its worth during these times, right? Anybody
Yeah.
who had any
Agreed.
criticism about music or poetry or filmmaking has now sufficiently shut up, because
Yeah.
everybody has
I
come to
agree.
realize that if we didn't have music, if we didn't have good movies, if we didn't have things to keep us sane, we would have all killed each other, like locked up in our
Agreed.
homes. We would have all collectively gone insane, right?
I agree. Yeah.
So yeah, so I guess like that's been the case for me. People have because they're sitting at home and because they're cooped up, and because your usual capitalistic and consumerist avenues are unavailable to them. They
Yeah.
have started to look inside them. They have started to ask themselves the tough questions. Okay, where is my life going? What do I need
Yeah.
more? Where do I feel that? What are dreams and passions that are unfulfilled and ignored? So I want to
Yeah.
work towards them. So
So
because of that, I've been able to teach basically online.
have you considered uploading classes on Udemy and stuff like that, websites like that, where you just need a
Um,
camera and a microphone, and then you just teach. And I think you get paid for that. I'm not sure. You probably do get paid for it to some extent. Can't be
yeah.
possibly be free, but there are free lessons and there are lessons that you can pay for. Like some can be expensive, some really massive master classes, but some I have taken some filmmaking courses from there,
Yeah,
storyboarding courses from there, and they're actually really cheap or free. So are you guys planning to do something like that as well?
I think the problem that I have with that approach is that, firstly, the kind of music that there's a thing with music specifically, that
Mm-hmm.
music is, I guess, so innately tied to anybody's sense of themselves, that to me it's really hard to come up with a general one size fits all model.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
agreed.
So if I'm teaching, let's suppose I have 8 students right now that I'm teaching.
Yeah.
I am teaching, like what I'm teaching, all of them is different. The order in which I'm teaching them, the relative importance I'm giving to different areas is
Yeah.
different because everybody has different problems, right? Some people are more shy because of the parenting style of that they received in
Yeah.
childhood and the attachment patterns that they learned, right? Some
Yeah.
people are more free with their bodies. Some people are more open and curious. Some people are nerdy. So, everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses. So I find it really hard and very limiting as an educator to have, let's suppose, a standard presentation that I can turn into a course. I like
Yeah.
the directness of it, and I like the cultural way that we teach. We don't have an idea of a classroom. We have the
Yeah.
idea of one ustad and one shagird, like
Like
one
basically
master. Yeah,
tutoring, personal tutoring type,
yeah, one
right?
master, one disciple. Like
Yeah.
that kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
silsila. And
Yeah.
it's not just about teaching, it's also about, like, especially when I teach music and as it has been taught to me, um, it's always about helping the person look inside and empowering them with tools that they need to sort of examine their own psyche, examine their upbringing, examine all of those
Yeah.
things. So it's such a deeply personal and intimate thing that I have not been able to find any way to standardize it and put it in a standardized curriculum.
Okay.
Because yeah, so I like to think of music as therapy as well. So it's therapy for the teacher, it's therapy for the student. It's
Mm-hmm.
a process of mutual learning and mutual
Yeah.
discovery. So I've not been able to crack that yet on the Udemy model. But yeah, in the
Got it.
future, I guess in the future, I'm
Yeah, it's
open to
something
that.
to
Just
think about. I mean, I once met this teacher a few years ago, and she was dealing with a kid who had a really bad crash, and
yeah.
he basically, he got the shakes, and he just could not mouth out words properly anymore, and it was through art, not music in that case, but it was through art,
Mhm.
like actual artwork, that he started expressing himself, and he actually has gone graduated high school to make like a lot of money. But when he had the crash, when he was recovering, his parents used to actually cry that he's done. Like it doesn't matter how much money we spent on him, but now he's done. There's nothing to look forward to. And I personally feel that in terms of all of art, basically music is a huge therapy as well. Keynote, I remember there was a amazing therapy session that I went through as well, and it was just mind blowing. And what do
Yeah.
you think is the scope of this in the very long run? I mean, yes, people want to play instruments, people want to use their voices, but do you think there's something bigger that can eventually happen in terms of um, performances, public performances, and how to actually help plethora of people, a larger group of people with each performance or with each lesson, I guess. Have you basically been looking into people who are doing these drive-in concerts everywhere in the world? Um,
Yeah.
I think.
I think the problem is that in Pakistan, at least,
Hmm.
music is still not, like, it's not religiously allowed, like, technically
Yeah.
speaking, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the problem is that because it is in this country, music is essentially looked down upon.
Yeah.
It's not something that people want to pay for. Like, people will support you. I mean, look at the biggest bands, right? Look at Junoon, for example, right?
Hmm.
Junoon has been one of the most successful acts to come out of Pakistan.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know anybody in my social circle, despite being a Junoon fan, who's ever purchased a Junoon album, like an official, proper, where royalties go back to the band kind of an album. And
Yeah.
throughout the 2000s, we had a similar problem. We had like an influx. There was a massive movement of bands coming up and people coming up. But what happened? Like, the music channels ate they stole all the money, and the record labels, they stole all the money. And because
Yeah.
Pakistan doesn't have any kind of copyright laws, so because of that, the artists lost their royalties and things like that. And so the way it works in Pakistan right now is that the only people who can afford to be career musicians are the people who are employed by, let's say, Coke Studio or Pepsi Battle of the Bands or Nescafe Basement. These
Yeah.
are
Good
three
point.
top music programs.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the drive-in concerts, वगैरह all that scene, that kind really That can't really happen in this country right now. But on that note, I think what especially Pepsi Battle of the Bands has done, it has brought back the idea of bands. Like people getting
Yeah.
together and just like really, really jamming and working hard and coming up with stuff.
Yeah.
So as a consequence, what's happening is that a lot more people are getting into music production. Like like when you and I, when we started out, the musicians that we knew were musicians. Like somebody knew how to play a guitar, somebody
Yeah.
specialized in the bass, somebody did drums. Right
Yeah.
now, what's happening is that the new people that are coming up, they are also coming up with home production studios. Technology has miniaturized.
Yeah.
Technology has
Exactly.
become more affordable. So people are now looking at the YouTube model more of like just publishing content and getting the word out about their music. So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, I see a very positive turnaround for Pakistani musicians because I see this idea of self promotion and just being a complete package, like not just being a drummer, not just being a guitar player, but a complete package. Somebody who can play multiple instruments, who can produce, who can make a YouTube video, who has some basic
Sorry.
camera and lighting skills. So
Yeah.
I see a lot of that coming on, and I guess like so 5 to 10 years down the road, I do see the idea of the concert really emerging in the country. But right now, I guess the only thing that's really happening is online, like quarantine jams and things like that. I mean, even I
Yeah.
am being part of that and
Yeah.
taking part in that.
Yeah, I think what normally we don't realize, or people in general don't realize, that Pakistan is still a pretty young country as compared to so many
Yeah,
others that are very supposed to be, first world and successful and everything
yeah,
like that. So I feel that Pakistan is a very young country, and it's like a baby, to be honest. And at the end of
yeah,
the day, the support that other countries give, excuse me, older countries give to their musicians, they get a lot more experiences, a lot more push, and they actually
yeah,
have been doing this, whereas in terms of Pakistani artists, there's not that much. I mean, I have seen at least a couple of your live streams with other people, but
yeah,
it's not I don't see too many people doing that. And I also see that younger people like you guys are actually into this, not the older generation. They're
yeah.
still back in the day kind of situation, being called to interviews and maybe sing a song or something like that. But that's such a massive thing. And like you said, basically, somebody who can produce music from start to finish and play multiple instruments, they also now need to do no marketing, and having that complete
Yeah.
package, that will take a long time. But I think this, one man show self promotion kind of situation is something that we will eventually be dealing with, but I think we will catch up, hopefully, fingers crossed,
No, no,
with the
definitely,
world soon.
definitely.
Yeah.
I have a lot of hope in the younger musicians who are coming forward because
Yeah.
honestly, they're just a lot hungrier than I remember like musicians my age being when we were that young. You know, like the
Do you think
musicians
they
that
got
I
kicked
see
out of the
now.
house faster, sooner?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, they're willing to like. I mean, think about it. In a country like Pakistan, they're
Yeah.
willing to not get married. That's a big deal, man. That is
Agreed.
like, because literally, you are taught in this country from birth that one of the things you have to do when you are grown
When
up
you
is to be
grow
married.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
like
epitome of
22,
success is marriage and kids.
yeah, like 25 years is already too late. Like you should be married before then.
Yeah.
So that attitude I find very, very optimistically absent from the newer batch of musicians that are right now coming up.
Yeah.
And everybody's working harder, man. Like even I know a couple of musicians who are from very traditional gharanas, like the typical households of musicians
Yeah.
who shun technology and like not really interact with the regular public at large, and they don't really
Yeah.
take students. They hide their craft. Even
Yeah.
the younger musicians that I've met from those traditional households, I've also seen them be like, oh, I want to go to Berkeley. I want to do a master's in music from Berkeley. I want to learn jazz composition and then combine it with my classical family
Yeah.
learning. So that's a very positive step. Like that's a big deal for anybody who lives in the country and who knows what's what. So that's why I'm very optimistic in the next 5 to 10 years about the state of music that's going to be in Pakistan.
This makes me really curious, though. Like, what has changed exactly? What instigated this whole thing, where people were like, we are going to make it or break it in music and stuff. Like, what would have changed? Because when I was growing up, when I was in school, I remember the younger ones were always either dumber or they were really they were they did not want to do anything themselves. So
Yeah,
a lot of I don't know what's wrong. I don't have the wires. Don't worry. Um, they just it just felt like the younger generation was just dumb and they did not want to do anything. They were eating off of their parents constantly. And then I think there was a change then, somewhere down the line there was a change where the ones right before us, they were the ones who did not want to do anything, and then they just
yeah,
evolved eventually, which is
yeah.
actually a really good sign. I never saw it happening in front of me, but I am still in touch with, you know, some very, very old schoolmates who actually
Yeah,
ended up doing a lot. And it didn't
yeah.
seem like their classes would have done anything much, but or amounted to much, but they actually did, which is really interesting to see. With this music thing that you're saying, it's really possible. But the hungrier part, I don't understand still. I know
I think
there's more robustness, like there's more people who actually want to go out of their way and achieve something, but yeah,
yeah.
you're saying.
No, I think what's ended up happening is, okay, what you're saying, there's a lot of that as well, right? I'm not denying that, people uh like what you described don't exist anymore. Obviously they do, and they exist by far in the large majority. But
Yeah.
look, music has always been a minority thing, right? Music has never been, as far as at least I can remember, it's never been like a considered a viable career in this country, or maybe even in this part of the world for that matter.
Yeah.
Um, but it's always been like something that you did because you couldn't be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, right? Um,
Yeah.
I think what ended up happening is that the people who are coming into music now is, I think the amount is the same, more or less. Like
Mm-hmm.
every year, 100 or 200, whatever, some arbitrary number, but like the amount is the same, more or less. What's different about these people is that these people uh, are very native and they're very savvy users of the internet. So
That is true. Yeah.
in the internet in particular, the YouTuber culture and the Instagram influencer culture, that I think has really changed a lot of things because um, I have a friend who is now a professional gamer, and he what he does is he just plays games and then he broadcasts those on Twitch, and
Okay.
he is earning a six-figure salary just by doing that, right?
Yeah, it brings in good
And
money if you're consistent for sure.
yeah, and he's all he needs is just like a really good uninterrupted power supply at his home, and like just stable internet, and that's it. So he started off with a bare minimum, and now he has his like now he's earned enough money to put solar panels on his house, so he gets like he makes his own electricity, and
Okay.
now he has a direct like satellite uplink internet. So now that that's happening, and it's happening publicly, like when
Yeah.
you became a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer in this country, it never was public. Like you wouldn't advertise like, oh, I got hired at Siemens and this is my work day at Siemens, and
Yeah.
now we're inventing this technology, right? That never happened. But with the arts, that is happening. You are getting people who are saying, hey man, we play video games for a living, and
Yeah.
we earn 10 times the money that doctors earn. So
Exactly. Yeah,
once
it's a slap in the face
that
for a lot of parents, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they got that slap in the face because what it's done is it's validated for a lot of the younger people that,
Yeah.
hey, if you get good at something, you can broadcast it on the internet, and there are people who want to watch you do it. Like
Yeah.
honestly, even, and this is not just limited to the big cities. Even in interior Sindh, where it's
Mm-hmm.
very very underdeveloped and it's mostly villages, there's
Yeah.
this guy called Jam Safdar. I don't know if you've heard about him.
No,
Jam
I'll Google
Safdar,
them right
right?
now. Yeah.
Yeah, look him up. He's like Pakistan's biggest TikTok star, and he is earning like
Oh,
in millions of rupees. I'm not even
yes.
kidding you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This,
I've seen his videos. They're
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. This is a middle-aged man who has no
Yeah.
access to anything,
Yeah.
uh, and who doesn't have a lot of education, but he's just coming up with like really creative, witty content that people
Yeah.
around the world are really appreciating, and they're paying him for it. So
Yeah.
So I think what the internet has done, it has really democratized the job market. I think the internet has the proliferation of the internet and the availability of cheap camera phone devices.
Yeah.
Uh, that's really helped change a lot of the things. People are they are looking at, they have success stories to look at uh,
Yeah.
from the day that they are sensible enough to do a Google search and old enough, and and they're growing up with that inspiration. So therefore they're coming out hungrier, they're coming out more aware, and so on and so forth.
This is a good segue to my next question. I wanted to ask you. Uh, I guess it's a two-part question now because of new information. Like my original question was, were you working full time when you were trying to make it? I know you've already said that you had some savings and stuff, but it's I know I've been with you on your journey for a while, so I know the ups and downs as well. But was it easy when you had a full-time job that you wanted to pursue this? And I guess the second part is not everybody has, like, for example, jumps up there, maybe he got lucky and that's brilliant for him, but there might be a lot of kids out there who want to do gaming professionally, but they can't afford a really good computer, decent computer even, and parents would not allow it, something or the other, while they're having to do other things to actually earn money. What's your say in that, with respect to what you went through as well?
Okay, I think, yeah, like, the thing that I started off the interview with, that a lot of it has to prove your convictions to yourself. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of the artistic process is, I guess, for me, what I've learned is figuring out uh, how much courage you can display in the face of these kind of odds, right?
Yeah.
So I consider myself very lucky in the sense of I grew up in a household where I was taught English from a very young age, and I was taught to read from a very young age. So that comes with its
Yeah.
own set of privileges. Even when I didn't have a lot of money, I had access to a global language that and a mind that was groomed to dissect information and to absorb it,
Yeah.
right? So that made a lot of self-learning possible for me. So I recognize the privilege that I had going into this.
Okay.
I think for me, it's now that it took me a long time to get to where I am because I was doing a full-time job.
Okay.
Because I had to, I had a younger sister who was going to college, and I had older relatives, and I was the elder. I was the eldest son of the house, and you know how our culture is that the eldest son of the house is supposed to run the household. So
Yeah.
I definitely had that responsibility on my shoulders for the longest time.
Yeah.
But the advantage of having studied in the US, that was another privilege that I fully acknowledge that I had,
Mm-hmm.
was that I never had difficulty finding jobs as such. Like I was able to build a career in education. I was a teacher for the longest time. I worked
Yeah.
in the top high schools and the top universities of Karachi, and eventually it got to the point that it became clear to me that music cannot be done part time. It has to be done full time. So
Yeah.
before Corona happened, I transitioned to an online job model that I was like, okay, I'm gonna, instead of having one solid paycheck come in
Yeah.
by working 12 hours a day, what instead I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work 5 hours a day at a part-time job, get a
Mm-hmm.
third of that paycheck, and then use the remaining hours to teach. And every time I teach, I have to practice. So it's
Yeah.
like teaching music is beneficial because it's literally somebody's paying you to practice. Because
Agreed. Yeah.
if I have to teach someone, I have to do the exercises myself. I have to sing along with
Yeah.
them. And when I sing along with them, that's good for me as well.
Agreed. Yeah. It's a
You know?
non-stop thing, right? With every and then you have to teach different. You have different kinds of students too, so you understand
Exactly.
different mindsets as well. Like which kind of person will perceive what kind of information which way, which
Yeah.
is really interesting. Yeah. And so this
I think,
online. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
sorry. Just one last thing. I just wanted to say that,
Sure.
like, I mean, I acknowledge that it's sad that a lot of people will not have the tools that they need to become a Twitch subscriber, or like
Yeah.
Twitch broadcaster, or, like a YouTuber or an Instagram influencer. I get that. But as opposed to 10 years ago, the
Mm-hmm.
people who have the privilege are now open to the idea. Like people like 10 years ago, even people who came from very rich families were also becoming doctors and engineers, right?
Yeah.
People who could people who could
Good point.
afford to
Yeah.
not work a day of their lives, they were also becoming bankers. But now those same people are becoming filmmakers. Those same people are becoming musicians, and they're going into advertising, into the creative arts. So
Yeah.
that's, and like, as much as I hate to use that expression because it's been really misused in recent years, I
Yeah.
do believe in trickle down. I do believe that people with more means, when they start adopting habits, that people with lesser means start aspiring to them. you know the
Yeah.
I mean,
Agreed.
think
Good
about the
point.
entire doctor, lawyer, and the engineer thing. Where did it come from? It came from the fact that people whose families were empowered by the British, when they were ruling over us,
Yeah.
they chose to become lawyers and engineers because the British were paying them more money to do so.
Yeah.
So our ancestors saw that there was, like, when you become a doctor, lawyer, or engineer, you become a saab. Like, saab is
Yeah.
a very hard word to translate for international people, but you literally
Gentlemen.
become a gentleman, the boss
Not
man. You become,
really, but yeah.
yeah, you become something important. So the entire push for our parents to push us into doctors, lawyers, or engineers also has a historical basis. It's also that people with privilege first became that, and so people without privilege aspire to that. So there's a certain trickle down economics that's going on there, right? In the 90s, I remember the fourth profession, chartered accountancy or financial
Yeah.
professional,
I remember that.
that was
Yeah.
added to that list. And you remember in the
Yeah.
initial days when everybody was like trying to become a CA, trying to become a chartered
Yeah.
accountant, or
It's
like
like
nowadays it's all about
your
risk
life is
management.
made, your first class in your
Yeah,
life is made, basically just continue this.
yeah,
And I think there was a lot of pressure on people as well, right? There were a lot of
yeah.
people who couldn't do it. It was a 7 year program. I'm not sure what it is now. And I
It's a
remember a
10-year
friend of
program
mine,
now.
I'm sorry.
It takes on average 10 years now.
10 years, and geez. And I remember a friend of mine actually went for ACCA eventually, and I don't think they were introduced together. I think ACCA was a cheaper,
It
watered
came
down
much,
version of CA, but it became more
yeah, it came much
popular.
later. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and became more popular because it's like you're not gonna be completely set, but you're halfway there, so that's fine. That's acceptable, I guess.
yeah. And now, like, the same process, the wheel has moved forward. Now you have risk assessment and CFAs, the
Yeah,
financial accountants that are coming in, or even economic engineering is now econometrics. That's coming in, and that's being added as professional, like, options for professional careers that you can have in this country. So I do
yeah,
think that there's that upward trend that's going, that more people with privilege are, or the ability to do what they want without the fear of starvation upon them. Now they are opting for the creative arts,
music
and I
and
think,
filmmaking and stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a really good point. I mean, yeah, I do feel that it's a little slow. The growth is slow, but again, I think we started this conversation by saying partially that Pakistan is a very, very young country, and
yeah,
people aren't any uh, wiser as well, because it does take generations to figure shit out. So,
yeah,
can't
exactly.
couldn't say the shit word. Damn it! I have to delete that eventually. Beep
Hey
it.
man, your
I'll
words,
beep
not
it.
mine. Beep it,
Fair enough.
just beep it. Ah.
Just beep it. So I have one. I do have one more question. What was it? Yeah, I mean, this is completely on the side, but I do want to plug your. I don't know why Imran is calling. Imran, can you stop calling me? He's like watching this and calling me, so I don't know why.
Hi Imran.
That
Hi Imran,
he's
how are you?
basically he left a comment
घबराना नहीं
saying
है, घबराना नहीं है.
downloading Twitch right now. He said 421. See, it's really interesting. I have an interview with Imran in a few days as well. We're going to talk about some heavy stuff like Black Lives Matter and stuff.
Yeah,
So let's see how that goes. But coming back to you, I wanted to ask you about Amtati. Like, how are things going with that? What are your future plans? When I say future plans, I mean like within 6 days or 6 months. It's up to you to answer which one. 6 days will be
yeah.
easier. Will be
So, well, 6 days, the plans are to try and get out of the house. That's the 6 day plan. Just for the viewers, Am Tatil is a band that I'm part of. I am the lead vocalist and I assist with the composing on that project. What we do is we take Urdu poetry, which has traditionally been considered a very soft and subtle thing.
Yeah.
But we choose poetry that speaks to the zeitgeist, that speaks to the social challenges that Pakistan faces, and we are trying to present it in a format that is accessible to younger people. So I know a lot of younger people listen to rock music, they listen to Western style trap music and stuff like that. So our goal is to find a middle ground, to find poems that can be composed in that genre and then to compose it in that genre. So it's basically we are working on our first debut album. The album is called Khutsar. Khutsar means headstrong, obstinate, and
Mm-hmm.
every piece of poetry that we've composed in that album is basically speaking to a certain delusion, a certain self delusion that the modern urban Pakistani holds. Like the
What is
idea that
that?
we are all, so for example, the idea that, all people are naturally drawn towards goodness, or the idea that love is a creative thing, you know, or love is like this beautiful, magical fairyland that once you enter it, all of your problems just disappear and everything just
Mm-hmm.
falls into place.
Yeah.
So we're the idea is that these delusions, I grew up with them. I grew up listening to this kind of poetry. I grew up listening to this kind of music, and what it has done is it has alienated Pakistani men so much from the practical realities of, for example, loving someone, and to viewing them as a person, to to letting yourself be improved by them without taking everything personally, or to develop the kindness and the softness that you need to be open and expressive about your emotions, or even especially your emotional failures, emotional shortcomings. I think
Would you?
that is what we're fighting against. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make music that speaks truthfully about what's going on here. Music that gets you mad, music that gets you thinking, music that
Mm-hmm.
gets you to talk not just about the pleasantries of life, but also
Yeah.
the dark underbellies, or like the difficult, the gray areas. So love, for example, is not just a creative force; it's a profoundly destructive force as well.
Mm-hmm.
Lovers hurt each other more than anybody else. And
Yeah.
we live in a society where there are so many honor killings. There are so many uh, so few rights afforded to women and minorities and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And women always have to tiptoe around men on almost anything. I'm sure that that's how it is globally as well. But not that I want to speak on behalf of women here. I don't want to mansplain. But what I've observed and what I've learned from my conversations with women, it's just that it's a very hard time for them out there because men don't really know what it means to be in an equitable relationship. And that I hold the musicians and the artists of this country, the generations that came before me, I hold them accountable. So what we're trying to do with Am Tatil is we're trying to distinguish ourselves from that. We've recorded the album. It was a
Mm-hmm.
completely crowd-funded album. We raised about
Okay.
$14,000 for it. That came in terms of like generous contributions from people all over the world, from Europe,
Yeah.
from America, from Japan, from Korea, from like all these different countries, and from within our own country.
Yeah.
And we're then COVID happened, so we all had to hide away in our homes and retreat into the safety of our online jobs for
Yeah.
three and a half months. Um, and COVID is continuing to get progressively worse where I am right now. So what? So we're gonna restart the process. We're trying to figure out a way to work virtually, like probably over Zoom and things like that, and work from home and just try to complete the album.
Okay.
We're hoping to release it like in by mid-August is the expected release date. Um,
Got it.
we're also right now trying to fundraise for the first music video. So
All right.
we need to raise about 3,000 US dollars for that.
Okay.
That's what the project is right now.
Well, I hope my one or two viewers can send like 1,500, and you'll be set. But I don't
Hey
know.
man,
What's up?
hey man. What I'm saying is that even if somebody can send $10, that counts because
I know, I
mm,
know,
uh,
I know.
like
I think I've done enough bachori in this channel for people to know that these are all mostly jokes. But yeah, $10 would be good. I had a question though. Like, again, not to get into this whole argument of the not all men and everything. I know what both of our views are on those things. So and
Mm.
we're they're not horrible views at all. But I wanted to ask you, like, do you think it's possible through music, specifically through your music, would it be useful, or it would be useful, but would you be willing to educate men and educate women individually and together for you know literally the daily um, issues that they have, like how to actually deal with them? Like, for example, if men are being bad, then you basically are teaching them through your music, this is how to not be bad, this is how to be a normal man, and you do the same thing for women. Do you think that's something that individually you can teach through your music? Is that part of any plan for you? Because you said youngsters, and you have a different um, medium for these guys.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I don't really believe. I'm not sure if I believe in a prescriptive model where art is used to specifically educate, but I
Mm-hmm.
do believe that in addition to all the toxic garbage that people get exposed to, I just think that an alternative, a countercultural view needs to be on the table. It needs to be
Yeah.
served. It needs to
Yeah.
be one of the items on the cultural buffet that you give to your young people.
Yeah.
So I think the best way that an artist can work towards changing the world like they want to is
Mm-hmm.
to shine by example. Like what I want to do is to, and I guess what all the people in the band got together for, it's like we just wanted to put this out there, uh, in all of its glaring naked truth and beauty and ugliness and complexity and blacks and whites and grays, and we just wanted to put it out there. We wanted there to be on the table.
Okay.
We wanted to write a music album for the history books, not necessarily for maybe the
Entertainment
top 100
purposes
charts.
only.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because
I'm
because
pretty sure
Zohaib,
the
the
top
thing is,
100 charts is not going to be too bad if that happens.
I really hope so. I would be pleasantly surprised if our album gets any kind of commercial traction, and I don't mean it in a self-deprecating way because I didn't make the album for applause. Like none of the people who are on this project,
Mm-hmm.
some of whom are experienced musicians and accomplished musicians in their own right, none of us really had that idea going in. We just wanted to say the truth. We just wanted to
Yeah.
look at the world around us, and we just wanted to reconcile it with our experiences. And I hope that the younger people who get to listen to my music are as inspired by some of the musicians that I was inspired by. Like I grew up in extreme poverty,
Mm-hmm.
and there were a lot of days when there would be a gang war raging on in my backyard, and the cops would show up and they would toss gas, tear gas
Tear gas
canisters,
cylinder canisters.
and like my entire family would have to run out of the house with our eyes stinging. That has happened to me, and on those days, I don't know if you know, or if your audience knows, there's a fantastic musician from Pakistan called Faraz Anwar. He used to have a band called Mizrab, and the album
Yeah.
Mazi
Yeah.
Hal
Yeah.
Mustaqbal came out. The opening track from that album, Mayusi. Mayusi is literally how I spent those, like, so many of those years. And I remember the effect that it had on me, like, because all around me I was getting the same message that hard work is useless, that the system is rigged against you,
Yeah.
and there is no reason to do any better. But I
Mm-hmm.
heard that album and I was like, no, something inside of me was just activated. Something that was lying dormant was awakened by that album. And honest to God, if I can have that effect on just one person in this country, I'd
Yeah.
consider myself very
That's
lucky,
how I
very
was
accomplished.
thinking what we were talking about literally 20, 30
Yeah,
seconds ago. That's exactly the perfect bridge to
yeah.
how this Mizrab album actually affected you. That's pretty brilliant. Is there? I wanted to ask you that how you have been dealing with the quarantine. I think I'm off the music questions, but I would obviously love for you to plug your channels as well. We'll do that at the very end of this.
Yeah.
just so you can get the two viewers who are watching us right now on your following as well. But no, there's four. Fantastic. But yeah, how have you dealt with the quarantine? Because I feel like I haven't talked to you for months. Um,
Yeah,
just
I think
generally.
yeah, I think what ended up happening was that the first month was just fun and games, and I think what it was denial that was very beautifully disguised from my own self.
Yeah.
And I was just, like for cynicism and just laughing at the world, be like, ha ha, we're all gonna burn, ha ha. But then by second month, it was real. All of a sudden,
It hit you,
it
yeah.
was like it was real. Like, because my entire city went into Karachi went into lockdown, and the army basically enforced the lockdown on the street. So it became super real for everybody, like
Yeah.
almost overnight, like that. No more communal prayers, no more shopping malls. Um, and then when it became clear for me, I guess I was disoriented for the first half of that month.
Mm-hmm.
My sleep cycle was destroyed, my eating habits were destroyed, everything. But the more I read about it, and especially there's this website, it's a blog called Brain Pickings.
Okay.
That really, I think, helped me sort of self therapy myself. And just that really helped me change my perspective of what this quarantine is. So instead of being scared all the time, I thought, okay, hey, I can improve my skill set. I can join a support groups and start working on the problems that I've had that I've never had the time to work on because I never could in the initial days I couldn't afford a therapist, and then in the later days couldn't afford the time to go
Yeah.
to one. So so just being able to join a support group and to work through some of my problems and to just be able to examine some of my demons and come to terms with it. um, once that started happening, I started feeling more optimistic. I started feeling more energetic from the inside. I
Yeah.
fixed my sleep cycle. I went on a diet. I know it doesn't show right now, but I've been much worse. I've already lost about 10 or so kgs, and I still
Good
have
for you,
about
man.
80 to go, I think.
You'll be fine.
That's
I'm
about,
sure you'll be
that's,
fine. No, but
yeah.
I
So,
think your
I've-
curve of sorry, go
no,
ahead.
no, I was just saying that I have now come to see the quarantine as a kind of a rehab for my life. Like kind of a time to think, a time to grieve what needed to be grieved, a time to introspect and to think, okay, where am I going? Am I happy with how I'm getting there? What can I do better? How can I, you know? So for me, it's been an incredibly positive experience, along with also being a very fearful experience because I have older relatives that I live with,
Yeah.
and so I have to be very cautious about their lives. They are seriously at risk. My mom just
Yeah.
survived her second round of cancer treatment, so like she's especially particularly at risk. I lost my khala, my aunt
I
recently.
know I read that. I'm sorry
Um,
about that. Yeah.
no, thanks, man. But yeah, but is this something that we deal with? Like there's a lot of hope, there's a lot of serenity, but there is also a lot of pain. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety, and I think all of that ultimately comes out as music. So one thing
Agreed.
for example, I figured out was me and the bassist from my band, Athar Ahmed, we
Yeah.
came up with this idea that we should just contact musicians from all over the world, and we should have like small jams, like 45 to 55 second from
Mm-hmm.
musicians from all over the world. Like it gave us something productive to do, to look
Yeah.
forward to
With an
in our
end
lives.
goal in mind, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea is to just like, hey man, if I can spread some joy, uh, that's not just a desirable goal for me. That is my job description as a musician. That, like,
Yeah.
these times, the tough times are really what artists train. We train our entire lives so that we can give hope, so that we can do what we are doing right now. And
Yeah.
now is the time when it's actually needed.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm
it's
just,
being utilized perfectly. It's from the streets of Italy, Paris, like everywhere. It's just happening. There,
yeah,
people are playing music across the streets in their
yeah,
apartments. Like proper dancing thing happening. They're cheering each other's champagne glasses with like music and massive
yeah,
sticks. It's really interesting. Your curve of dealing with the COVID-19 situation is so different from mine because initially it was for me, it was really crazy. Like everyone was really pissy about me constantly smiling and laughing and cracking jokes. Like I wasn't cracking jokes about the virus, but I was really happy in general because I felt that it was rehab. Like, I had time to
Yeah.
myself after a very, very long time to do stuff. And that's why I started, looking into courses on Udemy, and I started talking to people. In fact, this whole NewsViews idea came up when I was like, for 1 month, I'm going to do a live stream every single day. And I did it. I think I took like 1 day's break, but I did it for a complete 30 days straight. And, I realized over time that people started expecting me to do it. I was at a barbecue last night, and my friend's wife goes like, my husband watched you every single day, but then one day when you didn't, he's like, what the hell just happened now? I mean, he even called in to one of my live streams. But it's really interesting that that happened, and then I started learning and playing the guitar again and stuff. And then now it's been like
Yay.
kind of a hiatus where I'm like, I don't feel like doing anything. I am too tired of like doing the streams and doing the videos and stuff. But I think I'm getting back up there. So it's a slightly different curve from your experience, but it's hopefully going to end up on really decent positive levels.
Yeah, man.
But
I think
yeah,
as long as you can allow
yeah,
yourself to have like moving goalposts, because the thing is
yeah.
monotony. Look, COVID
Not
or
for
no
too
COVID,
long though. Not for too long though,
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel.
Monotony is like the enemy of creativity,
Yeah,
whether there is COVID in the world or not. That's like just a given, right?
yeah,
So the way I keep myself positive and I fight through this process is that I keep trying to. I don't do the same thing, but I keep trying to do similar things. Like,
yeah.
like this instrument right here, it's called a darbuka. It's an Arabic instrument. And I
Mm-hmm.
got really into it in addition to being a vocalist. I also
Mm-hmm.
started studying percussion and like, taking ideas from Arabic rhythms and Turkish rhythms and just studying
Yeah,
them just to expose myself to that and like,
yeah.
like vary up my practice. I'm teaching different kinds of people. I'm teaching them different things. I'm teaching them
Mm-hmm.
at different times. I'm also working online as a digital marketeer and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But so just a variety. So instead of one big chunk of work,
Yeah,
like many multiple smaller chunks of work, like no main job, just side hustles, I guess.
yeah.
So I
I
think
think
like that's how I've
collectively
managed
that
to keep my
will,
sanity.
yeah, sanity. And I think eventually the collective hustles do end up paying most of your bills, so it doesn't
Yeah.
hurt for sure. Yeah, but plug your channels, man. There's Amtati. I'm gonna whatever you say now. I'm going to make a list of it, and I'll share the links on the description down. I always wanted to do this down below somewhere here, and
Somewhere over there,
somewhere there or whatever.
or maybe
But
there.
yeah, plug your channels, man.
Yeah, I have. You can find me on Insta. I'm at alihassan.aziz, or you can find me on Facebook, where I'm Ali Hassan Music, Hassan with a double S. And
Hmm.
I'll also send you the links myself.
Yeah, yeah,
And
do that. Amtatil. There's
Am Tatil is the name of my band.
yeah,
Am Tatil. That
yeah.
means public holiday. Uh, and our logo is a burning tire for reasons that shall remain nameless for now.
I can
But
guess a
we are
few
also.
things, but we'll do that offline.
Yeah,
If
but
that.
we're available. We're available on Insta. We're available on Facebook. Am Tatil. You can look us up, and our album is just right around the corner. We are also looking for international musicians to collaborate with. So Zo, if you know any like Thai musicians who play like traditional Thai instruments, like put me in touch with them, please. Like I am
I
looking
actually
to.
could. I'll
Yeah,
send you a few links because there's this band. Obviously, nobody's getting paid, right? So these bands they started doing what you guys are doing,
yeah,
live sessions online, and they have like a fund me page and stuff. So it would be interesting for you guys to actually work together across borders, man. That
yeah.
that that would be pretty cool, yeah. But
Right
yeah,
now, I'm just looking for solo musicians, like solo instrumentalists who
yeah,
just want to do those 45 to 55-second like short videos, and so just spread the word because the thing is that what I found really, really enjoyable about doing
Yeah.
these short videos is that I have so many different ideas of people. Like the
Mm-hmm.
first video that we put out, we got a brilliant clarinetist from Spain, Bernardo Moreno, who also
Mm-hmm.
happens to be a faculty member at one of the colleges there, right? So I had played
Impressive.
a very Arabic sort of kind of a rhythm, right?
Yeah.
So what it was something like,
Okay.
right? So that's a very Arabic sort of Turkish sounding thing. But then when he sent his part over, he had reinterpreted that as a waltz. And so I was like, oh,
That's
I never
brilliant.
heard that, right? So it's good. It's good in the sense of like it's helping me become more humble. It's opening my eyes to different ideas from all over the world. And I think the musicians who are working with us, they're also having a similar experience.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do. Like, like, so if you can put me in touch, if your users, anybody who's watching, if you guys know any talented Thai musicians who do like, we're looking for traditional Thai instruments. Um, so I'd be really, really happy to
Yeah, why
collaborate with
not
you.
actually? We have a street in Phuket, Bangla. I mean, those aren't traditional, but really
Yeah.
good musicians, and everybody's out of the job, like completely. They are.
Yeah.
You're talking about at least 100 bars, and
Oh wow.
about like at least 50 or
I'm so
60 of
sorry to
them
hear that.
have live performers, and that happens
That's
every single night. And they have not the Bangla street is completely shut down for the past one more than 1 month, which is pretty crazy. So I'm pretty sure there will be people interested in hooking up with you guys for this.
yeah.
But
I'm really sorry to hear
yeah,
that, man. I hope I'm sending lots of love, lots of prayer to you guys, and I hope that everything comes back online pretty
we
soon.
need money, man. We don't need love.
Love
They
is
need
blind.
money, Ali Hassan. You have to send in
Money is
money.
blind.
No, no, that's good. I'm pretty sure Thai people who are listening will really really appreciate this gesture, and I think we should do something similar to this interview soon.
Yes.
Some possibly when you guys have something happening with the album or with the music video or something like that. Any updates? You're more than welcome to always come here and pick my brain or let me pick yours. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I
That's
probably
about
will.
it.
I'll
Yeah,
hold you to it.
yeah. Don't do that. Thank you. Thank
Thank you for
you.
inviting me over, man.
Of course, sir. Thank you, everyone who's watching. This was Ali Hassan from Pakistan. He is a vocalist in a band called Tatil. I'll help you guys find them on social media and stuff. And please continue watching. And I will promise that I'll be making more of these news views sooner than later. Take care. Wait for the next video. Thank you,
Yay.
everybody. Thank you, Ali Hassan. And I will
Bye-bye.
speak to
Thank
you
you.
soon. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Talk to you soon, man. Bye-bye.
Later.